I'm not saying that there weren't Sith around, because I just think that Ki-Adi-Mundi was, again, assuming that those 6 are the only canon things that ever happened in Star Wars. I think Ki-Adi-Mundi was not informed about there being, Darth Plagueis and such, and training up Lord Sidious, Darth Sidious, whatever his title was at that point.
Sheev Palpatine.
Sheev Palpatine, yes.
I know his name. I can't remember the stinking Kimir or FedEx. Okay.
Oh boy.
All right.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Talk to me, Goose.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Why so serious? World.
I could do this all day.
Are you watching closely?
I have a couple. I asked ChatGPT for titles, and some of them were pretty good. Is Star Wars worse than the Ewok Holiday Special? Or maybe just the Holiday Special? Which I don't think that's right. I think it's just the Holiday Special, right? Because
it's just Holiday Special.
Yeah, we could just do that. Is Star Wars being written by ChatGPT? Because I actually think it is. Zombie Stormtroopers or Zombie Franchise? That could have been a good one for the Ahsoka one.
That would be good, for either Ahsoka or if we ever end up talking about the books, because there are some zombie Star Wars books that are interesting.
Okay. It's a little niche and not really covering what we're talking about. Is Star Wars on life support? Is Star Wars just a Force ghost now? And then let the past die, kill it if you have to.
There's some good options.
I know. We'll see where this conversation goes. I already started recording because I wanted a more informal start to episodes. So
we'll
just
get some nice
up. Yeah,
get some nice B-roll footage if we say something stupid or.
Well, Zach, the 3 guys in Zach and Josh and Will, they were in my wedding. We did an episode all together, and they were riffing right before, and I was like, I should hit record earlier. But I think okay. Starting now, we're not going to do intros anymore. We'll just start talking, and it's more casual.
This episode. Now. Surprise plot change. Welcome, everyone, to the One-Eyed Film Podcast. My name is Zach Spencer. I'm the guest host of this podcast. Joining me today is Seth, the host of the podcast. How you doing, Seth?
How the turntables. I'm good, Isaac. Thank you for inviting me. Oh, wait a second.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank me for inviting me.
This feels so weird.
Okay. Anyway, no more intros. Apparently,
well, now saying no intros is now going to be the intro. So, you've seen the Acolyte through.
Yep.
I wanted to start there. We'll get to where Star Wars is and what you think of Star Wars in general. But
for sure,
I want to talk. We talked about Ahsoka, and that was actually the last one to come out. And the Acolyte came around, and people had some words. I didn't really keep up with you as the episodes released, but I tried to also just look at what the general consensus was online, and there were 2 very opposing sides. I have thoughts about the specifics of the Acolyte and generalizations of the Acolyte. So I want to hear what you thought of the show as a whole, and then we'll talk about specifics.
Yeah, so in preparation for this episode, I watched just some recaps and breakdowns of all the episodes just to remind myself what all it was about. And if I found that if I put the Acolyte in a vacuum and I remove the world perspective on it and just view it as a story, I kind of liked it. There are parts of it that I'm not a huge fan of, right? The whole subplot of May and Osha's cult place burning down and all those people that I didn't think that necessarily needed to happen, but I mean, everything about the Sith Lord and those fights, love that. I was honestly with the season 2. Yeah, we'll hold off on that. But but no. I mean, I know I shot you some Discord messages throughout my dad and I watching this series, but there were some parts where the show's entirely too predictable. Like, we watched episode 1 and my dad and I were both calling out shots that proved to be true later on. I mean, there's parts where it's just a stupid show. It's not. There's parts where it's not good. There's parts where it's really, really good. I think that's just the way that it works with almost all shows now. I just think that the good and the bad parts of it are just so far apart from each other that it really just draws out the differences that people have, the differences in opinions that people have.
Well, I think the better the good parts are of a piece of media, show, movie, whatever, you are going to give more grace to the bad parts. I would say that Endgame is a good example for me personally. I will acknowledge that there is a lot of plot holes, some visual effects errors. It's not without flaws, but it's one of my favorites to watch because of the memories that come with it, because of the whole MCU behind it. And I'm going to give grace to those visual effects errors, storytelling or story plot holes and such, because I like it a lot. What would you give it at? What would you give the best part of the whole show? Maybe the choreography. I know that the choreography is actually pretty good. What would you give a letter rating or a class grade?
I don't know. In my opinion, like, the good parts of the show, I would probably give B plus, somewhere in there. There's a lot that there's a lot of ways in which it could have gone worse. And there were a couple of ways where I think it could have gone better, but I was very satisfied with how it was all in all.
I think I'm reevaluating. I think I'm reevaluating how I'm looking at it. Yes, if it's really good, you won't look as closely for the plot holes and such. It's also the opposite. If it's mostly bad, it's going to drag down the good stuff. So yes, we can acknowledge that there's good choreography and some pretty good acting from Soul's actor. But again, you're only given so much when you have a script that feels like it's written by AI. The fan base really divided at this. Like, there was Obi-Wan that had, people really holding out hope, the true fans, the OG fans, and then the new people coming in saying this is just as good as the OG trilogy. It's not. Yeah. And then Ahsoka is just a little bit more. They're like, okay, there's some weird stuff going on. I didn't hear anything about zombie stormtroopers. And then the Acolyte is just so far apart that it hurts to see the discord. And there's really, I don't know how you can be a gray fan of Star Wars anymore.
I'm almost going to throw in a suggestion, not necessarily being a great fan, but especially for Kenobi and Ahsoka, it's with characters that have already been established, that people already love, be it Obi-Wan through the regular series, Ahsoka through Clone Wars and Rebels. It's just stuff that we already know and we've formed that attachment to. The Acolyte is entirely new characters. We don't have, we are forming our opinions of them as we watch the show. And I think that's it could definitely be part of where that whole separation of the fan bases happens. Is there some people who like the characters that they're just being introduced to now, and there's some people who really dislike them, and so their opinions of that show, like the old saying of you form your opinion of someone within 7 seconds of meeting them, or something like that. I think that's almost what's happened with the show, especially with the Acolyte that's brand new, is opinions have been formed, and now I'm holding on to that opinion.
I think the hard part, you're right, this Star Wars piece of media is one of the first where you have no returning character. There's some cameos, yes, but there's no direct connection. I still don't think that's a good enough excuse for the people who really hate it, because they still hated on Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, and I think for good reason. I think the haters are mostly people who are either mad at Disney for how they've operated as a business, or good writers or can acknowledge good writing and storytelling and movie production and all that, and seeing those things. I think that's mostly the people that I kept up with while the show was releasing. And true Star Wars fans, because yes, you can say that there's zombie stormtroopers in the comics or whatever, but I don't think that is really the place that we want the movies and shows to go. That's like a what if, not like an actual what if storyline, but it feels like something that shouldn't be in Star Wars. It's just too cliched, I guess.
And to clarify, and you can tell me if I'm wrong in my assumption, but by true Star Wars fans, you mean like those who watched and fell in love with the original six, six movies.
Yes.
Not true Star Wars fans in that they're like all of their views are what's right, but just it's more of the older Star Wars fans, those who grew up with those movies.
I think this generation that is what I would say the true Star Wars fans. That's not supposed to be taken at face value. Like the ones who aren't in this category are fake Star Wars fans. I believe it's the people who are second generation Star Wars viewers after their parents saw the original trilogy in theaters. They had kids just in time to see the prequel movies, and then now they're adults and they've watched through the sequel trilogy, been dissatisfied, and then it's just been downhill from there. I think those are the ones, instead of the people who when I look at a Star Wars shill, as it has been called online, they don't seem to be the ones who were there in 2000 when the movies were releasing. Now, I wasn't either, but I'm still the child of that. My dad saw A New Hope in theaters when he was 12. And that's where my love of Star Wars came, was when he showed it to me when I was a teen and all that. So it's almost like I would say this category is secondhand Star Wars fans from their parents. And the people who are praising the shows and all that and saying there's nothing wrong with them probably weren't our first generation, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like that's where the disconnect is.
Yeah. And I think it can be especially hard to try to play to those two opposing sides, because again, you've had a group who for the longest time thought the original six were all that they were going to get. And they fell in love with those, and it became, a bit of maybe a not heretical, I don't know the word, but that became almost like their Bible. Those original six, everything was based off of that. And now they're trying to play to that side of, well, look, this is part of the original six. There's references to stuff from that, but they're also trying to play to the new fans who came in through the 7 through 9. And they're just trying to say, hey, look, but there's also this really cool new stuff that we've got, like a potential dyad. Even in the Acolyte, there's references to Darth Plagueis the Wise. There's Cortosis, which has been referenced in old EU stuff that the original Six Watchers love. And then there's newer stuff. I mean, even dyads technically is EU, but it's more common in the newer stuff. And there's, all the High Republic era alone is just all new stuff. So I think they're almost trying to play both sides of it, and that's never going to work, because you definitely will separate your fan base. Yeah. Going right down the middle, I don't know if that'll work either. You might separate your fan base there too. If you choose a side, you're going to make one side angry and the other is going to be happy. It's just it's hard, I think, and I don't know if there is a good resolution to it.
And I think what's interesting is that it's not been all bad. The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 were pretty good. Andor was amazing. And I think with the announcement of Andor season 2, it is going to be telling, because if they still gave all freedom or all creative control to that guy, to the director, forgot his name, it will probably be good. But why is it good? Why does it feel like it fits with the original 6 just like season 1 did, even if it's about the side character from a spin-off movie and his backstory, which again has been criticized because of the Star Wars joke about always making every single possible story ever told in the Star Wars galaxy. Why does Andor, which doesn't feel like Star Wars, it feels like it's inspired by Star Wars, feel the most like Star Wars now?
Yeah, I think
or at least season 1.
Yeah, I think because it doesn't really feel like Star Wars, because all that we've gotten up to that point in Andor were lightsabers, dyads, Kylo Ren, Rey, Mandalorian, Grogu, all of that stuff. And then suddenly we take a step back from that, and you're not going to see a lightsaber in this show. Again, as we said in Andor, it is very like upfront, and it feels very real, as some parts of the Acolyte feel. Holy crap! But but like it, I just think it feels the most like Star Wars, as you said, because it doesn't feel like the Star Wars that we had known up to that point by Disney. It was something new. It was different, and because of that, I think people liked it.
Yeah. And yeah, we knew who Andor was from Rogue One. I think you brought up earlier that the Acolyte was mostly new characters, and then obviously there were some cameos. But I think those cameos actually made it worse. And I want to get nitpicky here because everyone else is getting nitpicky.
2 or 3 ideas on who you're talking about. Let's see.
Okay. I think I have 2, but only because I can think of them. And again, this is all secondhand because I don't know Star Wars lore.
Yeah.
Ki-Adi-Mundi is probably the worst version of what could have possibly happened. It's not that he appeared in the Acolyte. That's fine. I watched a lot of Star Wars Theory, as in the YouTube channel Star Wars Theory. And he said it best. He said it's not even about his birthday. Like he's supposed to have been born, I believe, way later. Like this is 100 years before Phantom Menace, and he was supposed to be born 50 years before Phantom Menace or something. And he's a full-grown adult in the Acolyte. Yeah. It's not about that. It's not about his birthday. And yes, it's so funny that the Wikipedia people went and changed Ki-Adi-Mundi's birthday after that episode released because it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Besides that, he is the one character in the Phantom Menace who says the Sith haven't been seen for a millennia, and yet you're sticking him in the middle of the story about the Sith coming back. Not necessarily a Sith, because he says, "Oh, you might call me a Sith." You're a Sith, buddy. And
I think it was stupid throwing Ki-Adi-Mundi in there. I think it was, as you said, it might have been one of the dumbest people to throw in. At that for that reason of he's the one person that talks about it. You can throw almost anyone else in there and they won't know that. But which makes me wonder why that's the case. And it makes me wonder if perhaps there was more planned for him in season 2 of like him meeting up with what's his name? Our Sith dude. I can't remember his name, and I just watched it.
So forgettable, right?
No, but maybe he meets up with him, and the dude says, "Yeah, I was trained to be a Jedi, and I'm making my own group of rogue Jedi." Maybe that's how Ki-Adi no longer thinks that they're not the Sith, and so the Sith still have a millennia. But I don't know why that was the decision that they made to include him. It was honestly just a dumb decision.
Yeah. And I think the line in The Phantom Menace is supposed to be showing that there's been peace for a long time, not necessarily that it's no one with a red lightsaber has been seen. And even that, he knows that now. Or no one by the name Sith has been around for over 1,000 years. It just means that there's peace, and that already just breaks. I mean, all 3 of those, I would say. There hasn't been peace because all these Jedi went to fight him. There has been somebody with a red lightsaber, and I think he's a Sith, even if he's technically not. Like, there's no way to just be like, oh, but actually, I don't think that works.
So I actually saw something from the showrunner of the Acolyte, who said that she did confirm that he is. What is his name? I'm going to look up his name.
Chimere?
Chimere. There we go. I literally watched this show an hour ago, and I can't remember his name. Chimere. What was my point now? You'll pause, let the buffer happen in real life.
You exerted so much energy trying to figure out his name.
Yep. Oh, showrunner said that Chimere was in fact a Sith Lord, be it a self-declared Sith Lord or something like that. But so there is Sith at the time. We saw Darth Plagueis. We know that. But it's
well,
it's
yeah.
confusing.
I'm not saying that there weren't Sith around because I just think that Ki-Adi-Mundi was, again, assuming that those 6 are the only canon things that ever happened in Star Wars. Yeah. I think Ki-Adi-Mundi was not informed about there being, Darth Plagueis and such, and training up Lord Sidious, Darth Sidious, whatever his title was at that point.
Sheev Palpatine.
Sheev Palpatine, yes.
I know his name. I can't remember sticking Chimere or Okay.
Oh boy.
All right.
Yeah. So yes, there were Sith around.
Yeah.
It's just that he was misinformed, and yet that doesn't make sense for his inclusion in the show.
Yeah.
We'll move on past Ki-Adi-Mundi. Plagueis. What do you think about Plagueis's? What do you think about Plagueis's inclusion? One as a tiny itty bitty cameo. I think this one is more of an age thing where he's like his birthday was somewhere in this time, but he would have been a teenager. I don't know what his species of teenager look like, so I don't know. It's not what I'm going to get hung up on. But again, people were like, "Why this? Why now? Why would you show one of the most feared, lore villains of all time here and now in this show in this way, hiding in a cave?" Which again, why is he in a cave when they've been there for multiple episodes? I don't know.
So, yeah, I don't know. So Plagueis is a Mun, something like that. M-U-U-N, I want to say. The banker people from Clone Wars. But, so I don't know, their lifespan, but I think it kind of makes sense to have him, at least have a reference to him to some degree, because all of this is about, all of Plagueis' stuff, as Palpatine says, is Plagueis created eternal life. He basically figured out how to get eternal life. And we know, well, if you've read the book, I think it's called Plagueis.
Appropriate.
He lives a long time. Thank you. He lives a long time. He lives a long time because he's unlocking those secrets as he goes. So it makes sense, I think, to show, again, what would season 2 have done with him? Would he have approached Chimere to, I don't know his name. Q. I'm going to call him Q. I'm going to call him Q. Would he have approached Q and asked, and said, "Hey, do you want to be trained in the ways of a Sith, in the proper way of a Sith? Do you, hey, I see that the girl that you're training, she miraculously came into being because some random force switch decided to play with the force, and now she's conceived." I don't know. I don't know what the plan was. I don't know if we ever will get to know. Maybe he was just intended, like Ki-Adi, to just be a cameo, so everyone's all crazy about him, and we never see anything more of him. Who knows? I'm more upset about Ki-Adi appearing than I am about Plagueis. I kind of like the fact that Plagueis showed up.
I agree. I actually like that description that you said, that it's possible that he was working on expanding or extending life. That is what he's known for, and that's possibly why he's older. Wikipedia, again, the source of all things trusted, that they definitely changed on a whim. Has him dying in 32 BBY as a factual date, and then they just reverse it because Muns are supposed to live over 100 years, is just what Wikipedia says.
Okay.
And so it says born between 147 and 120. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to get hung up on that. I think that's one of the smallest nitpicks I have, mostly because I don't know Plagueis that well. But I also think that it doesn't follow that Plagueis, whose goal it was to sustain life, to bring back to life, to cheat death, whatever you want to call it. If he's the first one to do it, why is it shown that these witches are able to do it? I feel...
Good.
Do you have an answer? No, I just feel that there's... unless season 2 would have been flashbacks to show that these witches were actually connected to Plagueis, that doesn't make sense because they're so far apart geographically, and the witches are not talking about the Force, they're talking about magic, and Force is now a threat or something. The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
So notoriously in Star Wars, geography means nothing in terms of time and place.
Sure.
You can travel the galaxy apparently in a couple of hours.
Really quick, it would have made more sense for Plagueis to show up on the witch's moon or planet instead of on some other one. Storytelling wise.
If you go back, again, we're talking about season 2 so much and there's so many what ifs about it. But if you go back and you rewatch some of those scenes, there is a random hooded figure that we never see who it is. That could be Plagueis.
Where?
During the ritual, during the ascension.
Oh. Okay.
But I have heard theories talking about how it could be that Plagueis, tried to hint at these Force witches how to do life, how to create life, and he kind of gave it to them to see if they could figure it out. And then he kind of just stood in the shadows and watched to see if they succeed. Well, hey, that's something I can use to help further my own means. I'm intrigued now to maybe go back and read Plagueis and see if there's like any hints that were dropped in the Acolyte that reference back to that.
Is it possible to learn this power? Not from a Jedi. Well, Chancellor, that reminds me of this one story the Jedi told me about. There were these witches, you see, and they were able to create life. But not just once, twice. They were so powerful, much like this Darth Plagueis, but they were actually successful. They created Force-sensitive beings. You could say they were the first before me. They were the real chosen. They were the...
What?
They were my sisters. The Force created them, and the Force created me. I mean, I don't remember Master ever telling me these... I mean, I never heard these tales. That's right. Witches, Chancellor.
What?
2? They died in a fire. Bricks. Well, look at the time, and thank you so much for the fairy tale, and it was a pleasure speaking with you as always, Chancellor. I have some Jedi business to deal with now, and I best be going. Take care.
Nice to see you, Anakin.
It's so random, but so funny at the same time. It makes
Bricks.
sense.
You got it. You good there?
On top.
You gotta admit, the whole place went up like it was made of paper, but it was made of bricks. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Okay. Our usual distraction by some video.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Someone just walked in.
Yes, it is my wife.
Sit the wifey. Hello,
It's the
wifey.
wifey. She can't hear you.
No.
Wow.
Nope. I'm not looking. Do what you were going to do. I'm not looking.
No, we're good. She brought me deodorant. I don't know what that means.
Little subtle hint there.
A little subtle hint, he says. So yeah, I really liked following Star Wars Theory because he is, like I've said, true fan is a little manipulative of the word, but he really wanted to like the Acolyte, and I think that he was very disappointed. Minor nitpicks that we can run through: fire in space. I don't know.
doesn't make sense.
I think it's No, I know. It's the disconnect. I think the Critical Drinker said that there's the disconnect where you understand that the fire should not flicker like a campfire up in space.
Yeah.
And the difference between that and an explosion in space is that there was oxygen in the spaceship that lit on fire as it exploded. I don't know. It's not waterproof, but I don't. It does take you out of it, and especially Amandla Steinberg, whatever her name is, the actress of Osha and May. Somebody had a meme, but it's of her. It's like the Darth Vader shirt where it says happy, sad, frustrated, but it's actual clips from the show of her acting this way, whatever the title is, and it's not any different. Like they're all the same face. I think that's the director telling her to be a strong woman, and being a strong woman means you're emotionless, because as Will has famously said, strong women have just turned out to be men in Hollywood. Like that's what it seems to be, is that they just are stone-faced. And I don't even think that men should be like that when they're strong men or whatever, superhero or whatever. I just think that that's how they've interpreted it, as nothing gets to them. Nothing gets past this shield. And that makes for very bland portrayals of the characters. I think Ahsoka dealt with the same thing. I even think Obi-Wan probably dealt with the same thing, where it's just blank expressions. So,
well, I do want to talk about something that you mentioned, and that I really enjoy the acting in the series. I enjoyed quite. There are parts where it's not good, but I think you can put that down to just how the director wanted it to go, the script that they were given. The actors, I think, did really well with what they were given. They weren't. The script they were given wasn't great. I think some of the directing cues weren't great, but they did the best with what they had. And I think, again, if you look at it in that vacuum, I think they did really good. I mean, the fight choreography's wild. Some dude gets his neck snapped. That's awesome. That's sweet. The way that Chimere, the way that his actor kind of plays just the clueless, bumbling sidekick, and then suddenly transforms that into the big bad. I think that's awesome. The way that he.
Yes, but it was predictable. No,
100%. It was predictable.
His flip flop in how he acted was very different and very in the moment. I guess it wasn't like a transition that you saw. His flip flop, like his two sides, his Jekyll and Hyde type of character. Yeah, sure, he plays different characters, which is kind of the point. But his Sith Lord is supposed to be, or the Sith guy is supposed to be hiding among everyone else. But I don't think that was. It's kind of like Ellie and I have been watching Psych. And it's pretty much like, if there's any new side character, they're the
instantly,
They're you automatically assume that they're the culprit, or it's like Scooby-Doo. Like if there's any other character, it's the professor that was introduced in this episode. He's the bad guy. Like it's pretty obvious. Things like that.
Well, and that again, I don't know if that necessarily falls on the actor. I think there might be parts that fall on the actor. But I think you could definitely attribute that to, again, just the way that it's written. If you suddenly introduce a character who knows a lot about one certain individual and their mission, and they just so happen to have the parts necessary to complete a task, it starts to become a little bit questionable of like, why are they here?
What do you think about the Parent Traps type of story? The swapping out identical twins, even though they're not identical, and the whole Osha getting arrested for May's crimes, even though she has shorter hair and doesn't have a tattoo on her forehead. And
episodes 1 and 2, I was a little bit confused. I didn't understand it. Like it had me. And then after we learned that there were two different characters, especially after episode 5, where she just donned someone else's robe, it's like, God. What actually happened was, I'm pretty sure it was episode 5, where May takes Osha's civilian clothes and hops on the ship. The moment that May first shows up in Osha's clothes, my dad does the whole like that. He goes, "That's a bad girl. That's a bad girl." It's like, Dad, how do you? No, it's not. It's clearly not. It's like, just watch within the end of the episode. Oh, you're right. You're right.
I thought at the end of what was it, episode 4, Osha gets knocked out and she literally swaps clothes and then takes the lightsaber and cuts her hair and she's like, "Oh no, I'm my sister."
That's 5.
Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, I have them out of order. Okay.
Yeah. 4 ends with Q doing the giant force push on all the Jedi.
Oh yeah.
And 5 is that giant fight, which is so good.
Well, okay. On that note, I feel like this is another one that could have been a movie and was kind of in production as a movie. Excuse me, puberty. In production as a movie, and then chopped up because that force push at the end of 4 really feels like it's the start instead of the end. Like that shouldn't. That's not how cliffhangers work. You can't just cut it right before the action starts. You have to lead up to it and tease it instead of just throw it, get ready, and then the credits roll and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah. Well, even speaking on that subject, I think I don't know if that's actually how it was supposed to go, but the order in which the episodes were put out really confuses me. Because I think instead of releasing episodes 1 and 2 as they did, I think you can release, I think it was episode 3, the one where we first see the girls when they're young with their Force Coven, their Witch Coven. I think that as I was watching it, I was like, this should have been like the premiere episode.
Yeah.
This, like, knowing what I know about them now from the first 2 episodes, this is not great. I don't understand why this is put here. There's no reference to it's only after we've watched a couple more episodes that we realize, oh, that's why that was put there. It doesn't really make sense putting it there. I think in a movie, I think if you play it like that, I think it makes more sense because you don't have a week to be like, what the heck is going on with this? It's just one flowing continuous thing. And you're like, oh, this makes sense. I get it now.
Yeah, and I the reason they released it like that is because you need an epic fight scene to start off your show. That's the only reason, and that's what happens in the first minutes of episode 1 is that there's a fight between a Jedi and an antagonist, which again was very frustrating. We'll get into that in a sec, but that's what they wanted to start off to hook people. Not that it was a good hook, but you don't want to start off with drama and story when you're promised action and lightsaber fights. So that's why they did that. That's why they did the flashback. But also, I don't think that they made us care, or they even really posed the question of why that flashback was necessary for episode 3. Yeah. I don't think that they were like they explained why they were going back to episode 3, as opposed to if it was starting the show. That it answers stuff and then leads into the rest of the narrative. I think that's a better flow. But again, you're right. I think that if it was played out as a movie, that would have been pretty good. On that note, episode 1, Killing Jedi. There's Carrie-Anne Moss's character, who I complained about. Yes, the knife was in her heart. I still think that I'm not going to get all anatomy on us, but going into the sternum or the chest really feels like it's not crumple over dead. It's different a little bit from Ahsoka and what's her name?
Sabine getting stabbed.
I even saw a reviewer or a reactor watch the teenage Jedi get stabbed 3 times, and she said, "I hope she's okay," or "I hope she comes back," or something. I'm like, this is what Disney Star Wars has done to us.
Almost like he knows that in that episode 5 fight scene, Q stabs like one Jedi, drags another onto it, and then almost like he knows they could still come back, he then decapitates them. Like, there's no shot he's coming. But talking about whatever her Trinity, her Jedi character, that's all I know her as. That's all I know her as. I don't know her name.
You're right.
It's Trinity. We know. We didn't know that originally, but we know that May uses poisons, so it could be, again, gonna play devil's advocate here. She could have possibly dipped it in poison. I don't know. But
Carrie-Anne Moss is Master Indara.
Master Indara.
I would have never guessed that. I would have
No, she's Trinity. That's what she's known for.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's almost like she asked, "Hey, can I get a Star Wars character?" And they're like, "Sure, we'll give you some hand-to-hand fight scenes and a quick battle, and then you can get killed off, so you're not used ever again. We don't have the budget for that." I hate to use the excuse of it's Star Wars, because you'd think using that would mean that someone who gets stabbed dies. Mm-hmm. But I almost have to use the excuse of it's Star Wars. She got a knife thrown into her. Star Wars uses different crap. Like, not different crap, but they have all sorts of stuff that's deadly on contact. Who knows what it is.
I still think that release order matters for Star Wars. And with the first impaling of a lightsaber being Qui-Gon Jinn, really, notably, that should be the standard of lightsaber injuries. And again, maybe I'll eat my own words because people are saying, "Oh, the lightsabers cauterize the wound," and so the first ever injury from a lightsaber when he gets his arm cut off in A New Hope shouldn't be all bloody and such, and that should have set the standard. I don't know, but even still, I think it's pretty telling when a character gets stabbed; they should be dead. And I feel like the other two stabs to the teenage character were just to be sure. Again, I think that Chimera is good. Pretty visually, yes. Again, choreography pretty on point for the show. I think the last thing that I had to nitpick is the bleeding lightsaber. I feel secondhand, I feel like if Darth Vader struggled to bleed his lightsaber, Osha shouldn't do it so easily. Or May. I forget which one it is. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's Osha. Osha's the one that
because they flip-flop or whatever.
It's interesting. It's not where I thought you were going to go with it. It's interesting. Because, yes, you would think that Vader being so full of hatred and anger would be able to just no problem bleed the Kyber crystal. Mm-hmm. But we know that Kyber is almost like a living entity in and of itself. Again, to play devil's advocate on it, she just learned that the man who had brought her up for many years lied to her entirely about what happened to her, the people that she grew up with and her sister. You'd think that'd give her a very clear moment of clear anger and frustration. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that really is a nitpicky thing to touch on.
But again, I feel like it's the laws of the universe that if you've established, again, I think that was even Disney, Star Wars, who wrote the comic about Darth Vader struggling to bleed the lightsaber, and he was already, one of the most hate-filled, anger-filled characters of the entire franchise. And again, part of it is performance. I don't think Amandla Steinberg really showed that much. It just was like, and then the red lightsaber. I do think that the effect is cool of it bleeding up the lightsaber into red, but also I don't think the lore behind it makes much sense.
Did you see her, did you see the close-up on the crystal actually bleeding? I found that cool. Yeah,
like down the shaft of the blade.
The color change, that was cool.
Yeah, again, effects are cool. And I don't think that the CGI ever really faltered. I think the locations and the sets kind of faltered. Sometimes it looked like they were on the soundstage, the screens around them and all that. Yeah. But the actual CGI was actually pretty good. Yeah.
I know they shot on location for something.
But it didn't look like Andor. Andor was...
I disagree with you when you say the CGI never looked bad. And the one thing that I will put out there is the Jack Link's Wookiee.
Jack Link's Wookiee. But was that CGI or was that a Sasquatch costume?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But, I mean, I think... knowing Disney, it's probably just a mocap suit that they CGI over. I could be wrong with that, but
that would be the easiest way to do fights because he got like possessed or something and was jumping around and all that. I don't think they could do that with the original Chewbacca.
Who signed off that? Hey, the Wookiee that we're going to include is going to be the Jack Link's Sasquatch. It's quite literally, it looks almost identical to it.
We'll just call him Jack.
Jack the Wookiee.
No, I actually don't think he has his name.
Or is it not
But
Jack
yeah.
Link's? It's not. Is it
No,
not
it
Jack
is.
Link's?
It is.
The Jack Link Sasquatch?
Yeah. There you go. It's not the best
yeah.
picture, but yeah, it's the same guy.
100%. It's very similar.
I don't know what.
Kalnaka. That's who the Wookiee was.
Oh, you were looking up his name. Yeah.
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 And now
Okay.
I will counter that with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit more fur on the face, and other than that, it is the same stinking thing.
That's funny. Okay,
Okay.
before we talk about Acolyte Season 2 being canceled, I think one of the biggest things people had taking away from this was the way they treated the Force. The whole Episode 3 thing, the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, not only a little spiritual and satanic, I'm going to overlook the two moms thing because we know that that's just pushing a agenda.
It's just the way that it works now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and of course, well, the Leslie Headland is lesbian, and so of course she would make her wife she was the green alien, the green bald alien,
Okay.
Jedi, and
Really?
then that was her wife again. I don't
Okay.
want to put that in quotes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And then the two witches were, saying that they were oppressed because of their beliefs, and of course you're going to see through that. But the greater idea is the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, and the threat of the Force. I'm not a Force lore expert, but that's something that was so game changing that, again, I don't think we needed an explanation of the Force in Episode 3. And not only that, it wasn't an explanation of the Force. It was something completely different, even though it's obvious it's the Force. They decided that it's something different because they're just misunderstood witches. I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
So, it's not new.
Okay.
Different interpretation of what the Force isn't anything new in the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a bunch of legends and EU stuff that has those different perspectives on what it is, but that's no longer considered canon. So you can even go to the Clone Wars with the Night Witches of Dathomir, and Mother Talzin uses the Force. In one arc, she literally harvests people in order to gain access to their the Force, so she can continue to live on. It's
She's just Mother Gothel of Star Wars.
It's nothing new. It's just, I think, with the already upset fan bases for Star Wars, in addition to the worldview that was being pressed throughout the series, I think that just kind of was just used as an additional flame point. I mean, there are other parts. There are much larger, like Ki-Adi-Mundi issues with the show that should probably be focused on, rather than the thread. It's the Force, as you said. It's quite clearly the Force. It's just how this cult perceives it and what they want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that's fair. I've heard people do deep dives into it, and if that's your perspective on it, I have no reason to overpower that. Acolyte Season 2 recently announced that it was canceled and not moving forward. People across the internet rejoiced. I think, at the very least, even if I were in your shoes, you're okay not getting a Season 2. There could have been more story told, but I still think that it was drugged down so much that the good did not outweigh the bad.
I mean, I was excited to see how Chimere, I said that right? Chimere?
Yeah.
Okay, I was excited to see how Chimere's story would have played out. Like how that whole Cortosis, how that whole plot would have played out. I liked the fight scenes in that. I was hoping that we'd get more, especially with the light whip. I think that would have been a cool thing to play around with in terms of how the actual story was being told. I'm kind of glad that we're not dealing with that anymore, because I don't know how much more of that I could have taken. Just from the actual plot side of it, it was just not great. So on the one hand, I'm like, I didn't really need a Season 2 of it. I didn't even realize there was a Season 2 that was planned. Hearing that it was canceled, I was like, well, yeah, I guess, there's no Season 2. That's yay. On the other hand, I'm like, I kind of I liked what they were doing. I hope they take some of the like the stuntmen, not stuntmen, a lot of stunt women, because there's a lot of women leads. I hope they take some of the stunt women and the stunt men and like the acting. I hope they take the choreography. I hope they take that and put it into other parts of Star Wars, because again, that was good. The fight scenes were on point. The rest of it, I hope, doesn't get brought over to other things. That just can fade away in the background.
Sure. I think the problem is that they set it up to keep going. Like some TV shows are like, oh yeah, we're getting season 2, or oh yeah, this movie's getting a sequel. It's already in production before it even releases. In some cases, but because I feel like season 2 could answer a lot of questions if there was a new director brought in to try and clear things up. I think that's, however, what they tried to do with Rian Johnson, and that didn't work. There was a battle between stories, and I don't think it should be. If they had made a season 2, I don't think it should have been its job to answer questions. The season should be able to stand alone. Even when I think of shows that I really liked a season or two, like Arrow, their story was contained to one season. Yes, there were some cliffhangers and some questions left over about lore, but it's not like you were like, what just happened? And then season 2 answers it. And I think that's what Acolyte would have been. Is there's just so much that didn't make sense, and season 2 could answer that, but you shouldn't need that. It should all just be contained, and there was too much going on with season 1.
Yeah, I think if another director picks up season 2 for the Acolyte, I think I might be a little interested in that, just to see how that goes. Again, I don't. If there's no season 2, there's no season 2. I'm not heartbroken and sobbing on the floor over that.
Sure. Something interesting that someone on the inside of Disney said is that there was a clean slate made for Marvel. That's why there's been one Marvel movie this year, and that's Deadpool and Wolverine. Because Kevin Feige got rid of all of the DEI experts and people who were pushing an agenda. He understood that that's what has been going on over the past couple of years. That has not happened with Star Wars. So as an MCU fan, and as Zach will agree with me, I believe that that's going to lead into possibly a better battle between the DCU and the MCU, as both movies are going to keep releasing, or both franchises are going to keep releasing. But I don't think Star Wars is on an upward trend. I think if season 2 were to come around, it would probably be directed by Leslie Headland again, or someone just as on her same level of beliefs and how Star Wars should be approached. So, the Force is female type of people. It's kind of disappointing, but
so up next in terms of Star Wars releases is Skeleton Crew,
which we saw, or no, the Skeleton Crew, they did release the full trailer on
they released
YouTube.
A trailer
some of the things at D23 got leaked, but some of them were released in tandem with D23 announcements. So
we'll cover that at some point. I think I'm approaching this with the same way that I've been approaching almost all of the Star Wars releases from The Mandalorian, in a downward trend of excitement and expectation. Oh, yay, another Star Wars show. Hopefully this one's not bad.
Well, from what I can see, the way I see it, it looks like live-action Freemaker Adventures plus the Young Jedi Adventures. You know, that show that was animated? Yeah. That morbidly... You can follow the trend and show that these kid characters get annihilated by Anakin eventually.
Oh yeah,
it's so sad.
It's very clear.
But it seems more like a kid's show or a family show or something like that. No, I don't think they're family. I think they're a group of teens or kids together. But I don't know. I don't know its purpose. It's not going with the Skywalker storyline, so that's probably good.
Hey, something there.
So I don't know. The other thing that was announced was the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Again, they cannot let go of Grogu, even though it's the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. They gave him to Luke Skywalker, and now he's back. And I don't know if they're going to follow Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian after it seems like Bo-Katan is now the Mandalorian that the show is referring to. Like if they made a season 4, it would mostly be about Bo-Katan. Season 3 was almost all about Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
And so I feel like they are going to be doing it with Pedro Pascal for the movie.
Probably.
But again, I don't know how that transitions from season 3 into the movie.
And it just raises the question of why couldn't the Mandalorian TV show have been a movie?
Doesn't make enough money.
Then why are you going to release a movie about it?
was the last Star Wars movie the Rise of Skywalker?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I remember rightly, I believe so, yes. A lot of these shows, when The Rise of Skywalker was released, a lot of these shows were supposed to be movies. Kenobi was supposed to be a movie. I want to say Skeleton Crew was supposed to be a movie.
Yeah.
It's just they've gone from becoming movies to becoming TV shows now. So
I think they understand that releasing them at home is going to give people more access. If they already have Disney Plus and they see that there's a new show, they're more likely to turn it on instead of driving to a movie theater to see something that's not really that interesting. But I think with The Mandalorian having 3 seasons and then becoming a movie is going to bring people to the theaters. Not like main Skywalker saga droves of people.
yeah.
But I still think that it's going to be good to see Star Wars in the theaters again. I will go see it for the sake of Star Wars in theaters and for the possibility that it's good. I like Grogu and Mando. I just hope they don't screw it up.
Yeah.
So
I'd go see it too.
yeah.
We'll see when it releases. Also, Andor Season 2, 2025. Got something to look forward to.
It's been too long.
It has been too long.
I heard that there's rumors that they're going to do time jumps. Like, I believe there's 9 episodes. Again, remember where in season 1 there was kind of sagas or arcs between the 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I heard that they're going to do that again, but each of the episodes is going to time jump. I don't know what the purpose of that is, but that's the only rumor I've had. The trailer was leaked. I've unfortunately seen it.
Ooh, I don't know if I want to go see it.
I
might want to wait for the real thing.
Yes, but they also have been taking him down as quickly as they can.
Okay.
But I managed to see it before they started that. There's some people who will talk about it online and break it down without showing it. But yeah, that's where I got the time jump thing. I think that I've heard that especially the last 3 episodes are going to lead up to Rogue One, which I think could be fun. Yeah. It's the same as how Rogue One led right into A New Hope. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Really connecting it to the main storyline. The only other thing that I had for future releases is a movie about Rey. I still don't know how they thought that was a good idea because I don't see that nobody likes her, and I don't know why they're riding on this main character that nobody likes.
Quite literally, I think after The Rise of Skywalker, the fan base was more proportionally against her than it was for her, and I don't think anything that they've released since then has altered that opinion.
Yeah.
And so I think, are they trying to improve that by releasing this movie? Or, I don't know. I think it's a dumb decision by them. But then again, I think a lot of the decisions they've made have been dumb. So it's par for the course almost.
And I don't think that Daisy Ridley really wants to do it. I think when she was cast in 2014... How old is The Force Awakens? 2015, and then probably filming in 2014, cast in 2013.
Yeah.
She wasn't that big of an actress. And now she's just Rey. And there's no getting out of that. And they want her to be the face. They want her face on lunchboxes everywhere instead of Luke Skywalker or Anakin or Darth Vader or whoever.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's going to work well. I don't think people actually want that. Star Wars Outlaws, the video game.
Yes.
I believe it just released. People have been hating on it a lot.
Is that the phone one? Or is it... No, that's Star Wars Hunters. Outlaws is the PC game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's actually out. Yeah, it's out.
Okay.
People have said that this is a AAA game that doesn't deserve that rating. People have pre-ordered it, and I don't think it's anything like the Jedi Last Survivor. Fallen Order and all that.
Fallen Order.
It's not to that par, but again, I think it's an open world, and people have just been hating on it. Again, I don't know. I haven't played it secondhand, but I don't think that's doing well.
I don't have anything that could carry that. I mean, the newest console I own is a Wii U, so put that how you will. It's either that or it's a 2DS. One of those two. I don't know which one is newer, but I have no. I have heard very little about Outlaws. I'm more excited about 1313 if they ever release that. I highly doubt they will. But anyway, speaking of faces, Seth, I don't know if you have talked about this before yet on the podcast. What was your thought? Again, moving away from Star Wars, what was your thought on RDJ?
Ooh, that's interesting. I did not expect that, only because I didn't think that you would be interested in that.
I have a reason for asking it, but
Okay. I've been torn. There's been a lot of good video essays about it. It's a moment of desperation. I will say that.
okay.
I don't think it's going to be terrible, but I think the move to do that is the same reason DC made Batman versus Superman as the second movie of their franchise after Man of Steel. Zach's gonna hate me if I'm wrong on that. But that's desperate. Like they were there were multiple Avengers films released by then, and DC was like, we got to get on top of this, and so they released Batman versus Superman with the collab movie, and it rushed a lot of characters. That is the desperation that Marvel now has, because they understand that DCU is going to thrive, I think, because of James Gunn. And they knew that Kang wasn't working, and so they went with there's a meme that's like that has RDJ behind fire alarm and says break glass in case of emergency. So we've talked a lot about how you can't bring Iron Man back. It takes away the meaning. Yeah. But they have to address how he looks similar to their Iron Man in their universe. But again, are they riding on that, or is that just going to be a one-off joke? If it's a one-off joke, then I don't think there was enough reason to bring RDJ back. They got plenty of people talking about it, and that's what they wanted. But I just think it's desperate. Why are we talking about this in the Star Wars episode? Explain yourself.
Because I'm wondering if we might get to the point where we will bring back a Ewan McGregor or a Hayden Christensen, possibly even a Mark Hamill. I don't think Mark Hamill as much, possibly Harrison Ford, but I doubt that because I know that he says he doesn't want to be involved with it anymore. But I saw RDJ, Robert Downey Jr. I saw how they did that. And one of the first thoughts I had when it came to Star Wars was, when are they going to do that for Star Wars? When are they going to take a Hayden Christensen and create, I don't know, some bounty hunter, some kick-butt bounty hunter, and put him in a mask and say, and he'll go and he'll be a new character. When does that happen for Star Wars? I don't know. I hope it doesn't happen, but
yeah. I think the hard part is that Star Wars doesn't dabble in multiple universes in the multiverse. With Marvel, it's an easy out, and that's been a big problem for them, having an easy out for bringing characters back from the dead and making them look like other characters. Star Wars doesn't do that in the lore, and that could be a reason not to, but for the sake of money, absolutely it could happen. I was thinking you were talking about, could they bring Mark Hamill back for another movie, even in between The Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, for a mid-story between that about the rise, the story we heard about in the sequel trilogy put to screen. That could be interesting.
I mean, maybe.
Again, I don't have faith in it. But I think Star Wars is safe from using the same actors as being recast as someone new.
I hope so.
Because the faces are those characters. Whereas opposed to Marvel, there is Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Yeah. There is only one Luke Skywalker, and he's Mark Hamill, whatever age he is.
There's only one Iron Man, though, is the argument to that.
You're right. But I think that if Mark Hamill were to show up anywhere else on the timeline, everyone's going to think it's Luke. So it could be a different version of Luke, and they could go into the multiverse thing. I think that'd be terrible. But I think their faces are the brand, whereas Spider-Man is all about who wears the mask. Anyone can wear the mask, and it's the superhero that's the brand. Yeah.
I mean, I think that could be interesting. I definitely think that having different, like having Mark Hamill come back for something in there could be interesting. But we've seen how bad he looks when they try to CGI de-age him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look good. I don't think it would look good. So,
what if they do the Sebastian Stan, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker thing, where people say Sebastian Stan looks like the young Mark Hamill? Have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh, this one, 100%.
Oh my goodness!
I know, right? Look at that.
I mean, yeah, but then it wouldn't be Mark Hamill.
You're right.
And I think Mark Hamill is iconic in that sense.
Yeah.
Which is why, again, tying it to Marvel and to Robert Downey Jr., I just hope they're not desperate enough to get to the point where they pull a face that we know, be it Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill. They can't do Princess Leia, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really, really unfortunately. But, again, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, any one of those, and throw it somewhere new. I hope we never get to that point. We'll timestamp it right now, and we'll see if in 5 years we can be like, wow, he was so wrong. That's all they've done for the past 3 years. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well,
we have the future ahead of us.
For better or worse, the future is ahead of us.
Yeah. It's sad. I wish we could have frozen time after Revenge of the Sith came out and never made another Star Wars. It's one of those that, again, just stop making them. You're doing more damage than help. So we will continue to suffer through it. We're not hating on it because it's any number of woke things that is easy to put hate on. It's just because it's poor writing, and they want to try and say that we're being rude because we don't agree with their politics. But again, you're the ones inserting politics into a movie that should be escape. What's the word?
An escape from
reality. Yeah. Well, again, I can't make that argument because people are like, "Oh, the Star Wars is all about George Bush and and international." I think that's something. That's something George Lucas said. Not George Bush specifically, but he is political too. But yeah. All right. Well,
anyway, that, ladies and gentlemen, has been another episode of the One-Eyed Film Podcast. Thank you for rating and reviews on your platform of choice. We have all of our different socials that I'm sure will be posted somewhere. I don't do that. That's the host's job, Seth.
It's usually the host's job to outro as well, and you're not giving me that option.
Fine.
You're doing great.
Seth. No, Seth. As the host of the show, why don't you, if we're outroing, why don't you send us on an outro then?
Do the things Isaac said.
Oh, great. Why am I should get paid for that then, if that's how it's going to work.
Well, if I'm not getting paid, you're not getting paid.
That's fair. That's fair.
Does everyone get to outro now?
Okay, go.
Thank you for joining us on the One-Eyed Film Podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Mossberg. Have a great day. God bless. I know I said that backwards. You can cut that.
I'm not cutting that.
Well,
see you next
week.
Yeah. Not you. You probably won't.
No, fine. Next week. I'll shut up. Finish.
There's nothing left to say. You
have to redo. You got to redo the "Have a great week" because I.
Oh, okay. Until next week, know that you're loved. God bless.
God loves you guys. Have a great week.